Francis Bacon was born on January 26, 1561, in London, England. He was the youngest of 8 children born to Sir Nicholas Bacon, who was Lord Keeper of the Great Seal under Queen Elizabeth I. Francis's mother, Lady Anne Cook, was an accomplished scholar who came from a politically influential family. At the age of 12, Bacon began attending Trinity College along with his older brother Anthony. He remained at Trinity for 2 years and was admitted to the Gray's Inn Legal Society in 1576. Bacon soon grew weary of his study of law, however, and traveled to France, where he lived with the English ambassador in Paris. He was forced to return home in 1579 when his father died, and afterwards he had remained in England, eventually becoming a lawyer in 1582. Bacon's public life began in 1584 when he was elected to Parliament's House of Commons. He quickly distinguished himself as a skilled orator and a clever politician. Thanks to the influence of his political allies, he was named to Queen Elizabeth's Learned Council of Advisors in 1591, but later fell out of royal favor when he criticized the Queen's proposed tax plan for the war with Spain. Bacon held his place in Parliament for nearly 4 decades, from 1584 to 1617, during which time he was extremely active in politics, law, and the royal court. In 1603, 3 years before he married heiress Alice Barnum, Bacon was knighted upon James I's ascension to the British throne. He continued to work his way swiftly up the legal and political ranks, achieving Solicitor General in 1607 and Attorney General 6 years later. In 1616, his career peaked when he was invited to join the Privy Council. Just a year later, he had reached the same position of his father, Lord Keeper of the Great Seal. In 1618, Bacon surpassed his father's achievements when he was promoted to the lofty title of Lord Chancellor, one of the highest political offices in England. In 1621, Bacon became Viscount St. Alban. That same year, Bacon was accused of accepting bribes and was impeached by Parliament for his corruption. Some people say that Bacon was set up by his enemies in Parliament and was used as a scapegoat to protect the Duke of Birmingham from public hostility. After the collapse of his political career, Bacon stayed in St. Alban. Now that he was retired, he was able to focus on one of his other passions, which was the philosophy of science. From the time he had reached adulthood, Bacon was determined to alter the face of natural philosophy. He strove to create a new outline for the sciences with a focus of empirical scientific methods that depended on tangible proof, while developing the basis of applied science. Unlike the doctrines of Aristotle and Plato, Bacon's approach placed an emphasis on experimentation and interaction, culminating the commerce of the mind with things. Bacon's new scientific method involved gathering data, prudently analyzing it, and performing experiments to observe the nature's truths.
Tend to characterize the scientific method. The first step is the question. This is the part where a scientist proposes the problem that he wants to solve. A well-conceived question usually leads to a hypothesis, a potential answer to the question at hand. Sometimes hypotheses look more like predictions. The scientist predicts what the outcome will be when he tests his hypothesis. The scientist's test is also called the experiment. Experiments are ordered investigations that are intended to prove or disprove a hypothesis. Important data comes from performing an experiment. The scientist has to make observations of the results that he gets from the experiment. An observation is a statement of knowledge gained through the senses or through the use of scientific equipment. Observations are crucial for collecting data. Once the results are in, the scientist must begin his analysis. Data analysis involves comparing the results of the experiment to the prediction hypothesis. Based on the observations he made, the scientist has to determine whether his hypothesis was correct. Then he sums up his findings with a conclusion. The conclusion of a scientific process is a statement of whether the original hypothesis was supported or refuted by the observations gathered. The scientific method usually employs all 6 of the steps I mentioned, but the steps don't always occur in the same order. Real scientists may go back and repeat steps many times before they come to any conclusions. It's actually better to use the word elements to describe the steps, since the first step, question, does not always come first.
In March 1626, Bacon was performing a series of experiments with ice. While testing the effects of cold on the preservation and decay of meat, he stuffed a hen with snow near Highgate, England, and caught a chill. Ailing, Bacon stayed at Lord Arundel's home in London. The guest room where he stayed was cold and musty. He soon developed bronchitis, and on April 9, 1626, a week after he had arrived, Francis Bacon sadly died. In the years after Bacon's death, his theories began to have a major influence on the evolving field of the 17th century European science, and as we know today, his theories have been used and taught all around the world.